Good evening, everyone. Tonight is March 13th, 2024. It is 6 p.m., and I would like to call to order the Columbus City Council meeting for tonight. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us if you would. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would someone like to make a move to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So this is Janet. I move to approve the adoption of the agenda for the March 13th, 2024 City Council meeting.
And a second?
This is Sue. I'll second.
Are there any questions or discussions about the agenda tonight? If not, I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye. So our first order of business tonight is a public open forum. Is there anyone in the audience or online who would like to speak at our public open forum?
I think we missed the consent agenda.
Oop. Sorry. Would you like to make the motion?
Sure, I'll do that. So I move to approve the consent agenda as presented in the March 13th, 2024 City Council meeting packet with a few minor edits that I made to the minutes and have forwarded to the city administrator.
And a second.
Second, Rob.
I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, aye.
Janet, aye.
And Rob, aye.
All right. Thank you, Janet.
Sure.
Sorry about that. Public open forum? No one? All right. We'll move on to a public hearing for liquor license approvals for Holiday Loves and Running Aces. And in our packet, it's pages 1 through 20. So at this time, I'll open a public hearing. Would everyone concerned come up and take your spot at the table and pull your microphone right up so we can hear you? All right. So the public hearing is open. I think we all know what you're asking for, but somebody go ahead and explain.
So Aaron Badesson with Running Aces.
Pull your mic up, right to your mouth.
Is that good? Aaron Badesson with Running Aces, looking to renew our liquor license for the upcoming year.
Tony Hoffman, Store Manager, Holiday, seeking 3.2 liquor license renewal.
I'm Anthony Chucker, General Manager, and we're looking to renew our liquor license as well.
All right. Bill, I forgot to ask for the reading of a public notice.
You don't need to read the public notice. We do have reports in the packet. Inspections were done at each site, I believe, and there were no concerns. There's conditions of approval for each of the licenses, and you can deal with those after the public hearing.
All right. So each of you are asking for a renewal of your current licenses, correct?
Yes.
And that's pretty straightforward. We've seen you all up here before. So is there anyone from the audience or online who has a concern or would like to ask any questions while we're at the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll close this portion of the public hearing with the right to reopen if necessary. And you can go back to your seats. I'll bring this up to the board. Anybody have any questions or concerns?
Mayor Rob here. And maybe this is for Bill. Has any one of these applicants had any offenses in the last, duration of their time with their liquor license? As far as underage sale or something of that nature?
We look at that annually, and there were no problems that we're aware of in the past cycle.
Perfect. Thank you.
I do have a question. Loves, they don't sell, do they? They just have the license?
Yeah, it's easier for us to maintain it than it is to renew it. We are probably not going to sell it in the foreseeable future, but in the case we do change our mind in our strategy, we'd like to maintain it.
And Holiday, is that the same with you, or?
No, we've been selling as of November last year.
Okay, thank you.
But only 3-2, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, then I'll make the motion to approve the off-site sale licenses for Holiday, Loves, and the on-site liquor license for Running Aces as exhibited in the license applications in item C2, attachments 1 through 3, in the March 13th, 2024 City Council meeting packet. Is there a second?
I'll
Rob,
second
second.
that, Ron.
Ron or Rob?
Any
We
other?
got a second, third, and fourth.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye?
Sue, I.
Janet, I.
Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye. All right, you guys, you're out of here. It's only 6 o'clock. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for being a part of our community. Pavement management bid projects, pages 21 through 23.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Attachment 1 in your packet provides information from the city engineer on the proposed 2024 pavement management program. The program will consist of crack sealing, chip sealing, and microsurfacing and will address approximately 15 miles of the city's bituminous streets, as well as the service lots surrounding the public works and fire hall buildings. The project costs are covered by funds in the 2024 pavement maintenance budget of $725,000. Bids and recommendations were summarized in attachment 2 in your packet, and the bids came in below the budget. The city engineer is here to answer any specific questions on the process, the projects, or anything relating to the bid summaries.
Who would like to, Kevin or Jim? You want to spell it out for us, please?
So we have 3 different contracts for this 2024 pavement management project. The first one is our crack sealing program. And we took in 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 bids. The low bid was Seal Tech Incorporated with a bid of $114,850. The other next contract was the chip sealing program. A low bid was by Allied Blacktop Company with a bid of $357,559.90. And the last one was the microsurfacing project. We have one bid by Asphalt Surface Technologies, with a bid of $214,711.70. The bids were either higher or lower than my estimate, but all together, they come in under budget, so I'd recommend awarding those contracts.
Any questions, anyone?
I just have one quick question. Are these vendors that we've worked with before?
Yes.
All of them? Yes. Okay, thank you.
My only question is, when you, do you check the backgrounds of all of those companies before you award the bid and make sure they don't have any
Violations.
bankruptcy?
These are, I think Jim is familiar with Seal Tech, which I am not. But as long as contractors can meet the requirements for the bid and can post bonds, it's very hard not to award to the low bidder. You have to have pretty substantial reason to move away from that. Both Allied Blacktop and Asphalt Technologies, better known as Aztec, both very reputable companies that I've worked with before, so I have no issue working with them. And I think Jim has had Seal Tech do work in town before, so no concerns.
They all provide insurance and, that type of stuff. So, I mean, have they been sued before in the past? I guess I don't know that. I've not ever looked for that, but as long as they provide the information that we ask for, we move forward.
They have to post bonds with the city as well, as long as proof of insurance, so.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, anyone? Then I'll make the motion to approve the contract awards for the bids for the crack sealing contract to Seal Tech Incorporated in the amount of $114,850, awarding the chip sealing contract to Allied Blacktop Company in the amount of $357,559.90, and awarding the microsurfacing contract to Asphalt Service Technologies Corporation in the amount of $210,711.70.
214,000.
Sorry, $214,711.70. Is there a second?
This is Sue, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? Anyone? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye. So when will they start and when will they be done, roughly?
So the first thing that we want to get done out of the gate is the microsurfacing project, because that's on Running Aces Boulevard and 147th. So I think we have a completion date prior to the start of the racing season. So that'll be the first one out of the gates. Off the top of my head, I can't remember our completion dates on the rest of the projects, but it'll be basically probably June, July is when most of that work will get done, so.
And may I ask, how do they do it? So that's a pretty busy street, especially until you turn into the parking lot there. They do one half one day and one half the next, or
Are you talking on which?
Running Aces Boulevard?
Running Aces Boulevard, so they'll come in with, they have they're pretty impressive. They bring in a crew basically to manage traffic, and they'll post people up at any intersections or parking lots to kind of hold traffic. The beauty of microsurfacing is it sets up in about 20 minutes. It's got a polymer in it, and it sets up very quickly. So basically what they do is it goes down in two courses. They do an initial course to kind of level things up, and they come back and do a final surface course right following that. And they'll manage the traffic. Typically they bring in a pilot car if they need to move cars around while they're doing it. So they'll keep vehicles moving while the work is done.
So it's like one half they do, and then
Yeah.
come back, or
Correct.
6
Yeah.
hours later?
They'll do one half. That'll get set up, and then they'll come back and do the other half. And then they'll do the other half again, because they have to do basically go over everything twice, so.
So it would all be done in a day or 2 days?
It'll likely be done in a day.
Yeah. Stay tuned, Running Aces, so that you know what that day is going to be. All right. Anything else, anyone, on that topic?
No, Mayor, just have a question for Kevin on that. The microsurfacing, are we doing that over the Camper World portion that we just repaired too? Is that part of that bid, or?
It'll go right up to it, but.
Right up
not-
to it?
Yeah.
Okay,
But not
gotcha.
over it, so.
Sounds good. Thank you.
On to number 4, which is pages 24 through 38, North Pine Aggregate Site Plan Review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. North Pine Aggregate is a second-generation excavation grading contractor that performs highway, street reconstruction, and construction of private development projects for both residential and commercial developments. North Pine Aggregate presented a proposal to expand their existing office located at 14551 Lake Drive to the city consultants and department heads on February 2nd, 2024. Their existing office space will be demolished and then rebuilt with the addition of a second story. The rebuild will overlay the existing building footprint and include an additional 754 square feet on the west side of the project. This additional square footage is only a 2.8% increase over the existing building size and is still contained within the limits of the physical structures on all sides of the new footprint. Staff reviewed the proposal and determined that the applicant did not require a CUP amendment, and a site plan review would be appropriate in this case, as this renovation does not constitute an intensification of use. The Planning Commission also reviewed and approved this application. North Pine Aggregate submitted their site plan review on February 22nd, and the Planning Commission approved this at their regular meeting on March the 6th. Attachment 3 in your packet includes some findings of facts and condition that was established for the approval of the site plan review, and reference of these items in the approved minutes is sufficient for the official documentation of this matter.
Thank you, Dean. Sure. Jack. So are there any questions or concerns? Anyone on the council?
No, he clarified it with the amended memo, that my question.
I have none. I see Classics building it, and they build some classy buildings, so.
There we go. Rob?
So, to the owner, through the mayor, are you planning on just doing the shell with Classic, or are they doing the whole demo, everything, build out? Okay. Gotcha.
Anything, Bill, that we should be aware of that we're not?
Nothing, I have nothing further.
I have a question. When do you think you'll start? Right away? That'll be exciting. Thank you.
Well, it's late until 7:30 tonight. Get ready. So, would someone like to make that motion, please?
I'll make the motion. I move to approve the site plan review for North Pines Aggregate for an office renovation/rebuild and the amended staff report attached and exhibited as C.4 in the March 13, 2024 City Council meeting packet that clarifies the description of the existing building footprint for the project.
This is Sue, I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. Are there any other concerns or questions? I'll call for the vote.
Ron, aye?
Sue, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
And Jesse, aye. There we go, man. Yep.
Thank you.
On to letter D quickly. It's only 6:15. City engineer report.
I have no report.
What? City attorney report?
I just have a brief summary. There's been a lot of questions, both at the staff level and Planning Commission and Council, regarding the affordable housing bill that's going through the legislature. I shouldn't say going through, it's been introduced. It has a long way to passage since it's pretty controversial. Essentially, this was brought by folks in the affordable housing industry along with Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. And without going through the whole bill, it's a pretty lengthy bill. The things that would be directly affecting Columbus include a requirement that any commercial district allow for multifamily housing. So all of our commercial districts, particularly those that are served by sewer and water, would become potential apartment sites. So that's one thing to note. The multifamily development, which is any kind of attached housing, would have to be approved if it complies with the comprehensive plan and municipal standards. And so it becomes automatically a permitted use allowed as a matter of right in all these districts. Height restrictions can be allowed, but they have to be more permissive for affordable housing. Setback requirements are allowed, but they have to be more permissive for affordable housing. I think the really big thing for Columbus is, well, there's a couple big points. One is every single family lot in the city would essentially become a two-family lot. And so duplexes would be allowed, fourplexes could be allowed, and so on. So it really could change the way single-family lots are treated in our community. And one thing, after the staff meeting, I went back through carefully every single line to figure out, how does this square with our city code? Because we were asked what happens to the 5-acre standard. And actually, the 5-acre standard would be affected in this way. If a city wants to have, the city's allowed to have a minimum a minimum lot size. A city may require a minimum lot size, so it's permissive in that way. But then it says, if you have a minimum lot size, it must not be more than 4,000 square feet, which is about 10%. Well, less than 10%. It's probably about a couple percent of our current standard. So think about this, 4,000 square feet for single-family, duplex, triplex, fourplex, sixplex, stacked flat, and courtyard apartments. So just a whole list of these, this kind of middle range of multifamily, not the high-density apartments, but, so you'd have to have a standard of 4,000 square feet. It would be 1,200 square feet for cottage-style housing and townhomes. So very, very small lots. 1,200 square feet probably wouldn't meet our septic requirements. So there's a complete mismatch of this proposal with a community like ours that has large lots, primarily on septic. It remains to be seen whether it would even be enforceable in that regard. But in the first instance, if it gets passed, you could have, oh, and then I have to add one more. Accessory units would be allowed on every lot. So what traditionally has been a mother-in-law, father-in-law apartment, that would be allowed as a matter of right on every lot. Now, some people may think that's a good deal, right? They could finally, we kind of joked and said, get grandma out of the garage. But,
Or if you have a mother-in-law you like.
right. You might invite her over. So that's something that, has been kind of existed in this community in different forms. Sometimes it was grandfathered, sometimes, people would try and say their accessory building is that. It's not allowed by our code today, right? So it would be allowed by the passage of this law. So to summarize, there's a lot more detail to this, and I can certainly spend more time on it. But to summarize, the biggest impacts are apartments would be allowed in every commercial district, certainly those that have sewer and water. Duplexes or accessory dwelling units on every lot. We'd have a minimum lot size of 4,000 square feet for most uses, 1,200 square feet for a couple of uses. Permitted as a matter of right, no public hearing, administrative review. So it would be done, and a 60-day limitation. So essentially, someone would come in with a project, and if it's a multifamily project, they would submit it, and it would have to be reviewed at a staff level within 60 days. So big change. And as you can imagine, there are many people opposing it, not least of which is the League of Minnesota Cities. Because they represent all the cities in the state, or virtually all the cities in the state. And this is basically taking away local control on this topic.
I have a question, Bill, but on the CI district along 23 towards Lino, with no sewer and water, you can't put an apartment. I mean, it's out of the question there, right?
It is, it's
For
out of the
now.
question. I've seen these wetland systems that people have done large subdivisions on. There's, I think in Lake Elmo, there's a very large subdivision that's on a wetland system, kind of a constructed, it's almost like a private utility, if you will. But you'd have to have a whole lot of land to do that. So arguably, someone could come in, do a multifamily development on a constructed wetland type system or a similar small-scale utility plan, if you will, private utility plan. I don't even know how that would be permitted through the MPCA, but so I think the answer is yes. It's not practically feasible where there aren't municipal utilities. It would be feasible throughout the freeway district, where utilities are available or could be extended. So all of a sudden, we could see the freeway district becoming a district of multifamily housing. Now, of course, we know there has to be demand. And, at least one study showed there's demand for 1 or 2 apartments in Columbus, and probably not more at this time. So that remains to be seen. I think the bigger impact is what would happen in our single-family, on our single-family lots. And would we, in order to comply with the law, would we eliminate the 5-acre standard, knowing that most people are not going to develop on, because we don't want to have a minimum 4,000 square foot lot, right? So that would be the largest lot we could mandate. So then you get rid of the mandate altogether, but knowing that people we would come at it from the standpoint of, all right, what's the minimum that's required for a septic system and a backup?
Bill, how does this jive with the Met Council rural diversified use that we're under in most of the city? I mean, it seems to me that someone's not talking to someone. I mean, we have a comp plan that the Met Council has held us accountable for having most of Columbus under that rural diversified, which is a 1 to 10 acre. So, I mean, it would be completely in conflict with that.
Absolutely.
And have they addressed that at all, or?
They have not. And I think what's happening is they're looking at every other community, that has sewer and water. But the few communities that are in our classification, it's a complete non sequitur. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so I think there could be challenges. There is a statement that it has to be in compliance with the comp plan. So you could argue, okay, our comp plan is based upon 1 and 10, and therefore we don't have to do more than that. But then there's this really strong language that said basically thou shall allow at least 2 units on every lot.
And I don't know this answer, maybe the engineer does. When you build a duplex or a fourplex, is it serviced by one septic system, or are there 2? Does each unit have their own septic? Ooh, I'm stumping the engineer.
Yeah. I think if they're each on separate lots, they would each have to have their own system.
But I mean, if you said you could put a duplex on what would normally be single family, are they serviced by one?
I think it'd probably be based off bathrooms, right? Is that how they base it, right? How many bathrooms for the size of
Right,
what
yeah.
your septic system needs to be?
Correct. And I think they would still need to have separate systems.
Well, I would think so. I mean, who wants to share a septic system? You have
Right.
somebody flushing, G.I. Joes down their toilet and backing up your system. But, so what I'm thinking is that currently we were just talking about this because we did a workshop on our septic ordinance, and the current version, which is based on state statute, talks about, at least with new construction, having to have 2 septic sites per unit. So you'd have to have 4 septic sites for a duplex. Good luck with that here, when you can barely get 2 with the wetlands.
And I think a lot of it would depend too on whether it was a rental type unit or a for sale to purchase unit. I'm sure that lenders aren't going to look at that very favorably if there's a shared septic system for 2 different sales of property. It's going to be difficult getting financing for those, but if for a rental unit, I can see maybe that one system would service that.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Right. So since we have legislative matters at the Capitol, we'll track this. Margaret Vessel will, and we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll reach out to the league to see. I mean, the league's really the proper entity to be pushing back on this, since they represent the entire state, cities across the state.
Say Bill, through the mayor, the mother-in-law suite, that probably could be favorable around here, but I think outside of that, I don't think talking to residents and that they're interested in having these small pop-up apartments all over, right?
Right, and if there's, just to that point, Mr. Mayor, council member, to that point, if the city ever wants to do a study on that, that's something that you could allow under your current regulations.
Okay.
But also, Bill, in reality, I've just been going up and down all the streets in my mind. So everybody sets their house, most people, about halfway back in their lot. So does that leave enough room for another place and 2 septic tanks? I think not. I'm thinking this wouldn't have a huge impact. Maybe on the freeway if they build another apartment or 1 or 2. But in our city, everybody has a little hump of dry land. They got their house in the middle of it. I don't think it's going to have a huge effect, just off the top of my head.
Yeah, and I think, not that I want to signal a fight, but I think you'd leave your 5-acre standard and rely on the comp plan and say we're rural diversified, and we can't do, we were told we can't do any more than that, and then, let somebody say we should be doing something different.
All right, anything else?
That's all I have.
Mayor and city council members report. Ron?
I have nothing.
I have nothing.
You have something.
I forgot.
All right, I'll say it, because we went to it together,
What?
the meeting at Carlos Avery. You were
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
Oh, I forgot all about it. You can take that, but I forgot about,
on the hill.
sat in for Rob on the planning commission.
Yes, thank
That's
you.
right.
But those, one item's already gone, which is North Pine. The other one's just a variance, and we'll hear that in another week, so that's all I have.
That was the shortest report we've ever had. So there's a few things. So yes, there's 3 of us that attended the Carlos Avery public input on their master plan, which hasn't been written yet. So they were in very, very early stages. There was quite a few people there, I would say.
Yeah.
Predominantly hunters, but also some people who like to bird watch or walk dogs or do whatever. The person who is the manager there was kind enough to forward to me, and I forwarded it to Bill, the acquisition plan and the, I guess, agreement, if that's what it's termed, that the DNR and Columbus had on their intent or plans to expand beyond their current borders. So at some point, I'm sure we'll be talking about that, but we have that. I believe there'll be, remind me if I'm wrong, a second public hearing once they get something drafted.
Correct, yep.
I think that if anybody is interested, they're still taking comments on their website, so you can certainly weigh in. Mostly they want to hear about how people use that wildlife management area. So they can build that in or at least take it into consideration. The second thing is that we were all at the Cities on the Hill, and that was good, and thank you for hosting us. I think we had
Our pleasure.
really good discussions with our state representatives. And then the last thing is Kevin and I were at the Rice Creek Watershed workshop on Monday this week, and it was the second workshop that they've held on how they determine a as-constructed and subsequently improved profile of a ditch, and they were talking about our favorite ditch, the 10-22-32 ditch, which runs through Columbus. So that was helpful to have sort of a historical look back on all the things that I guess went into creating the current ditch system and all of the I would say challenges that there are in trying to reconstruct something back to original design and even figuring out what the original design was. So that part was helpful. It wasn't helpful in terms of trying to figure out what to do with the flooding problem, but it was helpful to understand the history of that ditch system. That's it.
I believe Janet covered both, the DNR meeting, and then meeting with Senator Kroon and House Member West was good. We were able to talk about our issues and things that affect us. So, yeah, that's really all I got.
I have only one thing, and that is, don't forget everyone, tomorrow is Columbus. So we'll be at Trucker Lane between 7:45 and 8 for breakfast discussion and hobnobbing. So get to bed early tonight and get ready for breakfast. All right, Jim, anything from you?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, I have a question. The northwest property on West Freeway Drive, north of the roundabout, the road that we just did has been getting a fair amount of traffic in the lieu of big trucks driving up onto our property and kind of tearing it up. So I am looking to see if you guys will entertain me posting that as no trespassing.
When you say northwest, isn't that where Caribou is?
That's northeast.
Oh,
It'd be the Carlos
Straight
Avery
across the road.
Going down to Lamprey Pass, right?
Yes.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah, I
So
noticed they're rutting it up pretty good.
They're rutting it up pretty good.
Where are they, so It's paved. Are you talking about at the end of it where it's not paved?
They're driving on our property.
Yeah, where
So
that
they're
turnaround
going
is
off
at,
the
they're going
road,
up
up
in
onto
there.
the property where the for sale sign is,
Yeah?
up there. So I'm kind of,
Just for
I'll be honest
kicks,
with you, I'm
or-
kind of actually waiting for Rice Creek to say that we need to restore it. Because we're still kind of under the permit, so I'm not sure how we're gonna work through that, but, right. So nevertheless, I'm just looking to post it at this point, and then I'll talk to the
You think that's going to
sheriff's
keep
department.
somebody from doing that?
I absolutely do not.
Yes.
Hopefully
But-
no butternut trees.
But the point being is if I post it, that gives us a little more horsepower for enforcement. And then if that doesn't work, then I have some other ideas, but we can talk about that.
Can you do no
want one of my
trespassing
cell
on
cams,
publicly
or-
owned land?
You can.
Then I'd say go for it.
So what's the next step? Because that won't do anything. 2-inch pipes all the way across the front?
Cameras.
No, so what I thought about doing was just putting a berm on there. So, if I had a berm that was 3 feet tall and relatively steep, that they wouldn't be able to drive over was kind of my thought process, but I don't want to get into that unless we have to, because that's just nonsense labor, I'll say. So, I mean, if we have to get to that at some point, then we can, but I'm just hoping that we post it and the police go out there and do some enforcement and the problem goes away, but we'll see how it shakes out.
Anybody have any problems with posting it?
No?
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
City Administrator, Jack, what do you have for us?
At each of your seats, you'll find a little sheet that's got the list of appointed meetings that you've attended for the first quarter of the year. If you could take a look at that, add any additions to that, if they've been missed, or any other extra meetings that you've attended, so we can process that for your quarterly payment. And if you could get that back to me, if you want to get it back tonight or within the next couple of days, and we can get that taken care of at the next meeting. The only other thing I have to report on is the presidential primary, which was held on March the 5th. We had over 400 voters. Everything went really smooth and went well. The next primary will be in August. It'll be the county election, so we'll start preparing for that probably in July. So everything's going well on that front.
Sure. Thank you. We're quickly on to letter E, announcements. Columbus breakfast tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Planning Commission meeting is March 20th at 6. City Council meeting the 27th. And then it'll be almost April. Yikes. Anything else, anyone?
Can't forget the Lions breakfast on the 17th, this Sunday. You got to wear green. So
Oh, wow, that's
Well, yeah,
right.
they talked about having like some
Green
specialty, specialty pancakes to celebrate, so.
green coffee.
All right. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
second. Oh, we did it in
We'll
unison.
call for the vote.
Ron, aye.
Sue, aye.
Janet, aye.
Rob, aye.
Jesse, aye. And it's only 6:38.